The owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, made an announcement today that it's really shaken up the Washington Post. And it's, those of you know who follow the Washington Post, a lot of turmoil there already, a lot of resignations, a lot of concern about Bezos not endorsing Kamala, a paper not endorsing Kamala Harris. The editorial page editor, the opinion editor of the Washington Post, David Shipley, who's a longtime friend of mine, a wonderful man, and despite what some people on the right are saying, not a crazy liberal, not a liberal, like a hardcore liberal. Um, he quit because Bezos said the paper now is not going to write editorials that aren't in sync with two principles: in liberty and free markets. Okay. He said, we'll write about other topics, but we're not going to write editorials that run counter to those two important principles. And it's a strange thing for an owner to say, but I will tell you, and I have a lot of feelings about it, in part because it involved the resignation of someone I'm quite fond of. Liberals are giving up a lot now that they've considered to be theirs, not just since the election, but a lot since the election. They considered to be theirs, that their rich donors, including their Jewish American donors, would write them checks no matter how much the donors objected to university policies on things like Palestine and Israel. They took for granted that the university money would still come in. They took for granted that corporate CEOs would support DEI policies and cater in every respect to their woke employees, of whom they were afraid. They took for granted that they could control the Kennedy Center. They took for granted that editorial boards of our major newspapers would almost all be extremely liberal. They took that all for granted. And now you have at the LA Times and the Washington Post billionaire owners who say, we don't want to just have editorial boards that are liberal. It's okay to have some liberal positions, maybe columnists, maybe amongst those on the editorial board, but we don't want to have an editorial board that's just liberal. And this is very unsettling to a lot of people who, again, have taken for granted that in American society, certain of our institutions were just going to be liberal. And one of the Washington Post's best reporters, who writes about economics, tweeted after his boss, Jeff Bezos, promulgated this policy. He said, they've not come from me yet. They've not tried to influence my journalism as opposed to the opinion side. And I'm sure all of you know, but I'll say it. Newspapers have a church-state separation between the journalists who do news and the ones who do opinion. At least they're supposed to. He said, they haven't come from me yet, but the minute they do, I'll quit. And I'm putting everybody on notice, including the paper. If they try to tell me what to do, I'm going to quit. That is a weird dynamic to have in a newsroom.